Imagine a civilization that spoke a language no one can decode, a language that whispers across centuries yet remains stubbornly silent. This linguistic enigma is more than a historical curiosity. It mirrors human cognition, social cohesion, and collective memory. At first glance, it seems a puzzle for philologists, cryptographers, or linguistic archaeologists. Yet, this lost tongue story is also about our brains, the neural networks allowing us to perceive, interpret, and adapt. It's about societal energy, the signals we send and receive, and perception's limits shaping civilization's trajectories. The civilization I refer to is the Indus Valley, one of history's earliest urban cultures flourishing around 2500 BCE. Its cities were marvels of urban planning, with grid-like streets, sophisticated drainage, and standardized weights. Yet, despite architectural brilliance and social complexity, their language remains a mystery. Thousands of inscribed symbols have been discovered on small steatite seals, pottery fragments, and monumental artifacts. But no Rosetta Stone exists. No bilingual text bridges the gap between their script and any known language. Each symbol, each carved character, is a signal sent across millennia, yet our modern minds struggle to decode it. This struggle is more than a linguistic puzzle. It reflects the human brain's limitations and adaptations. The Indus script forces us to confront a fundamental question. What do we truly understand when reading the past? Our brains are pattern-seeking machines, wired through evolution to detect regularities, predict outcomes, and infer hidden rules. When faced with the Indus script, we encounter the limits of these neural heuristics. Our prefrontal cortices, responsible for working memory and reasoning, relentlessly seek meaning in an ambiguous system. Each symbol is like a neuron firing, a unit of information. Their arrangement may represent syntax, semantics, or ritualized communication. Psychologically, this is akin to perceiving a complex visual stimulus, like a cloud formation and extracting forms from randomness. Our brains instinctively impose structure, and yet sometimes structure is a mirage. The Indus script serves as both a window and a mirror showing advanced organization, reflecting our perception's limitations. From a sociological perspective, the undeciphered language underscores human society's adaptability. Language, after all, is a network of energy exchanges. Neurons transmit signals, communities transmit information. The Indus script may have encoded economic transactions, administrative records, social norms, or religious metaphors. Its unintelligibility to us doesn't imply the civilization was opaque to its members. On the contrary, its citizens navigated complex social networks with fluency, demonstrating collective intelligence and adaptability. Consider the metaphor of a system under stress. Neural networks adapt when confronted with uncertainty. Similarly, societies facing stressors develop adaptive behaviors that may appear enigmatic from the outside. The Indus script may be a historical record of such adaptations, encoded instructions for managing trade, social obligations, and ritualized responses. Perhaps what appears as undecipherable chaos to us was a highly optimized signaling system for navigating complex adaptive landscapes. Here, society as an energy grid becomes illuminating. Each citizen is a node, each interaction a conduit of energy. A disruption in one part, a failed harvest, a change in river patterns would generate cascading effects. The script, in its entirety, may have been a stabilizing mechanism, a set of instructions to maintain coherence. To approach the Indus script, we must also consider its creator's cognitive constraints. Human working memory is limited, typically allowing manipulation of roughly 4 to 7 discrete items simultaneously. Symbolic systems evolve within these constraints, often favoring combinatorial efficiency. The Indus script, with its brevity and repetition, may have optimized communication for these neural limitations. Each seal or inscription can be seen as a packet of information, a minimal viable signal for rapid decoding. From a modern lens, this is deeply humbling. We assume literacy confers universal access. Yet here is evidence that knowledge can be encoded, transmitted, and remain opaque to future generations. This tension between signal and perception is a recurring motif in history. The undeciphered language reminds us that understanding isn't merely exposure to information. It's about the alignment of cognitive frameworks, cultural context, and interpretive heuristics. As we attempt to decode the Indus script, we engage in historical empathy, projecting our cognitive architecture onto a distant mindscape. We also confront biases inherent in our neural systems, the urge to impose narrative, linearity, and familiar linguistic patterns. There is a philosophical dimension here. The Indus script challenges the assumption that knowledge must be legible to endure. It suggests civilizations may develop forms of intelligence and expression that operate effectively yet vanish from future recognition. This raises profound questions about cultural memory and the impermanence of human achievement. What is preserved, what is lost, and what is fundamentally undecipherable? In this sense, the script functions as both a message and a protective mechanism. By encoding information in a system that defies later interpretation, the civilization may have safeguarded critical knowledge, ensuring that only those embedded within the social and cognitive network could access it. The twist is subtle but powerful. The very opacity that frustrates modern scholars may have been a feature, not a flaw. Our perception of weakness, our inability to read the script, is actually an indicator of the civilization's adaptive sophistication. Just as the brain filters out irrelevant noise to protect critical processing, the Indus script may have filtered meaning, allowing only the right nodes within the societal network to decode its signals. The archaeological record provides further evidence of this sophistication. Uniform weights, standardized urban layouts, and absence of militarization suggest a society focused on efficiency, trade, and stability. In modern neuropsychological terms, this is analogous to a well-tuned network with low entropy. Signals are transmitted efficiently, redundancy minimized, absorbing perturbations without catastrophic failure. By studying these patterns, we gain insight into emergent properties of complex adaptive systems. We appreciate intelligence embedded in social structures as much as in individual cognition. As we contemplate the Indus script, we are invited to reflect on our own limitations. How much knowledge is bounded by our perceptual and cognitive constraints? How many signals from our era emails, social media, cultural artifacts will future civilizations struggle to interpret? The script becomes a mirror. It reflects the ingenuity of a long-lost society and the fragility of human understanding across time. There is a neurobiological metaphor here. Just as synaptic plasticity allows the brain to reconfigure itself, human societies continuously reshape their signaling systems, languages, and cultural codes. The Indus script may represent a snapshot of such a reconfiguration, a set of instructions, rituals, or social cues optimized for survival, now frozen in stone. From a philosophical perspective, this challenges linear notions of progress and comprehension. Civilizations do not necessarily aim for permanence. They evolve, adapt, and sometimes leave behind traces that are opaque. The Indus script is both a signal and a silence, a testament to collective intelligence and the ephemeral nature of human constructs. The implications extend beyond history and linguistics. For cognitive science, it is a reminder of the interplay between neural architecture, memory, and communication. For sociology, it demonstrates the power of distributed intelligence in maintaining social coherence. For philosophy, it questions assumptions underlying our quest for understanding and highlights humility. Every symbol on a seal, every inscribed character, is a node in a network of meaning that we can only partially reconstruct. Each is a signal carrying potential information about economy, ritual, or governance, yet the absence of a decoding key transforms it into a mirror reflecting our own interpretive limits. This duality, signal and mirror, is the core paradox of the civilization that spoke a language no one can decode. As we examine these artifacts, we are forced to confront the tension between visibility and comprehension. We can see the symbols, trace their geometric patterns, and hypothesize about their function. Yet the meaning remains elusive, revealing the gap between perception and interpretation, between signal reception and true understanding. It is here that the neuroscience metaphor resonates most deeply. The brain constantly predicts, infers, and fills gaps based on prior experience. The Indus script violates those predictions, producing cognitive dissonance and forcing a recalibration of interpretive strategies. This is not a failure of the brain. It is an encounter with a system optimized for another set of constraints, another temporal and cultural framework. What lessons can we draw from this enigmatic civilization? Perhaps the most profound is the recognition that intelligence, adaptation, and social coherence are not bound to transparency. The Indus people created systems of incredible sophistication, thriving in an era long before written instruction manuals or formal education. Their ability to coordinate, trade, and sustain urban environments was encoded in symbols that have confounded us for millennia. The civilization's success did not require that the rest of history understand its language. In fact, their survival strategies may have depended precisely on this opacity. The twist is that the very feature we perceive as limitation, our inability to decode their language, is actually a window into the evolutionary intelligence of their society. Just as a neural network benefits from selective gating of information to prevent overload, the civilization may have benefited from encoding knowledge in a way that was selectively accessible. As we reflect on this, a deeper philosophical resonance emerges. The Indus script teaches us humility, the kind that arises not from ignorance but from recognition of complexity. It challenges our assumption that understanding is linear or cumulative. Some knowledge is contextual, embodied, and distributed, and its meaning may be inseparable from its social and cognitive frameworks. Yet, in confronting this mystery, we are not merely passive observers. We engage in an intellectual dialogue across time, using the tools of archaeology, linguistics, cognitive science, and philosophy. Each hypothesis, each comparative analysis, is a step toward mapping the invisible currents of human thought and social energy that flowed through this civilization. And in doing so, we illuminate our own processes, how we perceive, how we adapt, how we transmit and interpret information within our own societies. The Indus script is not merely a puzzle to be solved. It is a lens through which we can explore the limits and potential of human cognition and social organization. Every undeciphered symbol is a prompt, asking us to consider what it means to know, to remember, and to communicate. It reminds us that history is not just a collection of facts, but a network of signals, some received, some lost, and some that resist reception altogether. As we conclude this journey, we recognize that the civilization that spoke a language no one can decode offers lessons far beyond linguistics. It teaches us about the adaptive power of societies, the subtle mechanisms by which knowledge is preserved or obfuscated, and the cognitive limits that shape both individual and collective understanding. The mystery of the Indus script is not a failure. It is an invitation. An invitation to think deeply about the interplay between perception and reality, between signal and interpretation, and between the ephemeral and the enduring in human culture. In the end, the greatest insight may be that not all knowledge is meant to be fully decoded by every generation. Some of it survives as patterns, rhythms, and signals embedded in social networks, waiting for minds sufficiently attuned to perceive them. Perhaps this is the ultimate lesson of the undeciphered script, that intelligence is as much about adaptation and coherence as it is about transparency, and that understanding is a collaborative, iterative process that spans both time and cognitive frameworks. So, as you reflect on the civilization that spoke a language no one can decode, consider your own interpretive limits. What signals do you perceive in your environment, in your society, and in your own mind that remain partially or wholly opaque? How do these gaps shape your understanding, your decisions, and your interactions? The Indus script is more than an archaeological curiosity. It is a philosophical and cognitive lens, inviting us to explore the nature of meaning, the architecture of societies, and the neural and social frameworks that mediate our experience of the world. If this exploration has expanded your perspective, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think the undeciphered symbols might have represented? How does confronting such historical ambiguity change your perception of knowledge, language, and collective intelligence? Your reflections are part of the dialogue across time. And if you found this journey through history, cognition, and society intriguing, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Past Lens for more explorations. History is not just a record of events, it is a network of ideas, a series of signals across time, and a mirror reflecting both the civilizations that came before us and the cognitive and social structures that define our own lives. The Indus script, undeciphered though it may be, is alive in this dialogue, waiting for each new mind willing to engage with its enigma.